So, good evening, you bloody legends. Warren's just said in the chat on Facebook that he's got an audition for The Apprentice. Warren, I want to know all about it. The Apprentice is one of, being a bit of an entrepreneur myself, one of my favourite programmes on TV. Now, the thing with The Apprentice is, a lot of the people who go on there are absolute dog shit. So, as long as you're good in a certain way, like to a degree, you're probably going to win, Warren, because I've worked with you before, and you're actually intelligent. You know what you're doing. This is very exciting. You've got to get yourself on there, mate. I don't know what you've got to do in the audition, but let us know if there's anything we can help you with, because it is funny. Who else likes The Apprentice? I bloody love it. It is really, really good, isn't it? I just love it when they go and they get a task and they're all so big-headed and arrogant. Oh, I'm going to do this and I'm this and I'm that, and they're absolutely shit. It's brilliant, but I think that's why it makes such good TV, because if they were actually good, it'd be a bit boring, wouldn't it? So good luck with that, Warren. That's very good. So good evening, everybody. Like I say, tonight is the book club. It's actually Tuesday night. For those listening on the audio experience, it doesn't matter to you what night it is. But I'm a night late because I was at a networking meeting last night and I got stuck there because of a train that I missed. It was all my fault, but I appreciate you being here tonight. If you're here live, it means a lot. We're looking at one of, do you know what? I'm going to put it out and say it's my favourite book. Out of nearly 300 Periscope and Facebook live sessions that I have done over the last couple of years for you guys on atsonthis.tv, we've read a lot of books, man. This has to be my favourite book, probably of all time, in the personal development sector. It's the most no-nonsense, no bullshit, cut-through-the-crap book that I've ever read, and it's just so refreshing in that sense. If you weren't here for the first chapter we read last week, go to atsonthis.tv, check out the book club section. You'll find a full recording of that. If you're listening on the audio experience, just go back a couple of episodes and you'll be able to listen to the audio from that. It is freaking great, and the premise of it is what we read last week, is ultimately there are, and I'm going to have to swear because the book's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson, and the premise of the book is ultimately that we are giving, and I include myself in this, way too many fucks about stuff that is unfuck-worthy. Ultimately, there are people caring so much about, for instance, what other people think of them in the acting industry, out of the acting industry, in life. I can't ask that girl out, that boy out, what if they think this of me, what if they think that of me. I can't write to this casting director, what if they think this of me, what if they think that of me. I can't put this out on Twitter in case Twitter Boy 96 trolls me. Some bullshit like that that's holding people back. They are giving way too many Fs about things that are not F-worthy. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't things in your life that are F-worthy. You've just got to save the amount of Fs you're giving for the things that actually are. So that was kind of the premise of chapter 1. It put it way more entertaining than that. Good evening, Richard Haler, all the way from Miami. Really appreciate you being here, mate. Honestly, really that good, Caroline saying, is it that good? It really is that good. We're going to read chapter 2 tonight, and it's titled Happiness is a Problem. It's a really interesting chapter. I've just read half of it before I jumped on. So get ready for this. If you could do me a massive favour, share this. If you're on Twitter, just give it a retweet now if you're on Twitter. Like I said, it's Tuesday night. I don't know if that many people know I'm going to be live, because normally we go live on a Monday night. If you're on Facebook, would massively appreciate you just sharing this to your timeline, whacking it in a group where you think someone else might want to see it. Just click the little share arrow, copy the link, whack it in a group. Bring some more people to the party. So yeah, chapter 2. Happiness is a problem. And Richard says I'm here and I don't give a fuck. I'm glad you don't give a fuck, Rich, because I don't give a fuck. I give a fuck that you're here, but I just don't give It's going to be blue. The air is going to be blue yet again tonight. I'm going to try and keep my eye on the comments, guys, and read at the same time. I've got it on my iPad here. I'm going Kindle and everything now, even though I prefer a book, really. But let's see how we do. About 2,500 years ago, in the Himalayan foothills of present-day Nepal, there lived a great palace, a king who was going to have a son, right? Pretty sweet. For this son, thank you, Dawn, for retweeting. For this son, the king had a particularly grand idea. He would make the child's life perfect. The child would never know a moment of suffering, would never know any need. Every desire would be accounted for at all times. If you've had kids, I'm sure that's been your grand plan. I haven't had kids yet, but I'm sure it's probably been your grand plan for when you've had kids to go, I'm just going to give them everything, right? Let's see if it works out for the best. The king built high walls around the palace that prevented the prince from knowing the outside world. He spoiled the child, lavishing him with food and gifts, surrounding him with servants who catered to his every whim. And just as planned, the child grew up ignorant of the routine cruelties of human existence. All of the prince's childhood went on like this, but despite the endless luxury and opulence, the prince became kind of pissed off. A pissed off young man. Soon, every experience felt empty and valueless. The problem was that no matter what his father gave him, it never seemed enough, never meant anything. Good evening, Bobby, on Facebook. So late one night, the prince snuck out of the palace to see what was beyond its walls. He had a servant drive him through the local village, and what he saw horrified him. For the first time in his life, the prince saw human suffering. He saw sick people, old people, homeless people, people in pain, even people dying. The prince returned to the palace and found himself in a sort of existential crisis, not knowing how to process what he'd seen. He got all emo about everything and complained a lot, and as is typical of a young man, the prince ended up blaming his father for the very things his father had tried to do for him. It was the riches, the prince thought, that had made him so miserable, that had made life seem so meaningless. He decided to run away. Dun, dun, dun. But the prince was more like his father than he knew. He had grand ideas too. He wouldn't just run away, he would give up his royalty, his family, and all of his possessions, and live in the streets sleeping in dirt like an animal. There he would starve himself, torture himself, God, and beg for scraps of food from strangers for the rest of his life. Doesn't sound like a great plan to me. The next night, the prince snuck out of the palace again, this time never to return. For years, he lived as a bum, a discarded and forgotten remnant of society. The dog shit caked to the bottom of the social totem pole. And as planned, the prince suffered greatly. He suffered through disease, hunger, pain, loneliness, and decay. He confronted the brink of death itself, often limited to eating a single nut each day. A few years went by, then a few more, and then nothing happened. The prince began to notice that life, and this life of suffering, wasn't all that it was cracked up to be either. It wasn't bringing him the insight that he desired. It wasn't revealing any deeper mystery of the world, or its ultimate purpose. In fact, the prince came to know what the rest of us have always kind of known, that suffering totally sucks. And it's not necessarily that meaningful either. As with being rich, there is no value in suffering when it's done without purpose. And soon the prince came to the conclusion that his grand idea, like his father's, was in fact a fucking terrible idea, and he should probably go and do something else instead. Totally confused, the prince cleaned himself up and went and found a big tree near a river. He decided that he would sit under that tree and not get up until he came up with another grand idea. As the legend goes, the confused prince sat under the tree for 49 days. We won't delve into the biological viability of sitting in the same spot for 49 days, but let's just say that in that time, the prince came to a number of profound realizations. One of those realizations was this, right? That life itself is a form of suffering. The rich suffer because of their riches. The poor suffer because of their poverty. People without a family suffer because they have no family. People with a family suffer because of their family. People who pursue worldly pleasures suffer because of their worldly pleasures. And people who abstain from worldly pleasures suffer because of their abstention. This isn't to say that all suffering is equal. Some suffering is certainly more painful than other suffering, but we all must suffer nonetheless. Years later, the prince would build his own philosophy, which is this, and he would share it with the world. It'd be the first, and this is the first and central tenet, that pain and loss is inevitable. All right, Ine, pain and loss are inevitable, and we should let go of trying to resist them. The prince would later become known as the Buddha, and in case you haven't heard of him, he was kind of a big deal. There is a premise that underlies a lot of our assumptions and beliefs, and the premise is that happiness is algorithmic. Happiness is algorithmic, that it can be worked for and earned and achieved as if it were getting accepted to law school or building a really complicated Lego set. If I achieve X, then I can be happy. If I look like Y, then I can be happy. If I can be with person Z, then I can be happy. And this premise, though, is the problem. Happiness is not a solvable equation. Dissatisfaction and unease are inherent parts of human nature and will see necessary components to creating consistent happiness. And we'll say, suffering ultimately is a consistent component, of creating consistent happiness. The Buddha argued this from a theological and philosophical perspective. I will make the same argument in this chapter, but I will make it from a biological perspective and with pandas. So we're going to see how he makes his argument from a biological perspective with a panda. But yeah, the first part of that chapter, ultimately, happiness is a problem. And what we are fed in this society right now, in the social media world that we live in, and in the Instagram society we live in, is that every fucker's happy. And all the rich people are happy, and all the good-looking people are happy, and all the people who are working are happy. And it's bullshit. Like, you end up with higher quality problems, but there is still I know people who are absolutely rich beyond their wildest dreams, who are clinically depressed, like, as in on medication. It ain't going to bring you shit. And I know you hear that all the time. But I think what the chapters try to get at is ultimately embracing a little bit of suffering, going, you know what, no matter what situation I'm in my life, whether I'm working on set or off set as an actor, or I'm in a relationship or out of a relationship or whatever, is like, suffering is part of life and is an absolutely fucking necessary piece of the equation to actually be happy consistently. But even then, you're going to have, peaks and troughs. Let's listen to this panda. Sounds interesting. The Misadventures of Disappointment Panda, it's called. If I could invent a superhero, says Mark, I would invent one called Disappointment Panda. He'd wear a cheesy eye mask and a shirt with a giant capital T on it that was way too small for his big panda belly, and his superpower would be to tell people harsh truths about themselves and that they needed to hear but didn't want to accept. So let's say, all right, Jen, let's hear some harsh truths about ourselves and society that we don't want to accept. He would go, so Disappointment Panda, the superhero, would go door to door like a Bible salesman and ring doorbells and say things like, sure, making a lot of money makes you feel good, but it won't make your kids love you. Or, if you have to ask yourself if you trust your wife, then you probably don't. Or, what you consider friendship is really just your constant attempts to impress people. Then he'd tell the homeowner to have a nice day and saunter on down to the next house. It'd be awesome and sick and sad and uplifting and necessary. After all, the greatest truths in life are usually the most unpleasant to hear. Disappointment Panda would be the hero that none of us would want, but all of us would need. He'd be the proverbial vegetables to our mental diet of junk food. He'd make our lives better despite making us feel worse. He'd make us stronger by tearing us down, brighten our future by showing us the darkness. Listening to him would be like watching a movie where the hero dies in the end. You love it even more despite making you feel horrible because it feels fucking real. So while we're here, allow me to put on my Disappointment Panda mask and drop another unpleasant truth on you. Are you ready for this? Tony Rossi, good evening from Chicago. Oh, we suffer for the simple reason that suffering is biologically useful. We suffer for the simple reason that suffering is biologically useful. Okay? It is nature's preferred agent for inspiring change. So if you're fucking suffering now, round of applause, right? Something's got to fucking change, hasn't it? We have evolved to always live with a certain degree of dissatisfaction and insecurity because it's the mildly dissatisfied and insecure creature that's going to do the most work to innovate and survive. We are wired to become dissatisfied by only what we do not have. This constant dissatisfaction has kept our species fighting and striving, building and conquering. So no, our own pain and misery aren't a bug of human evolution, they're a feature. Pain in all its forms is our body's most effective means of spurring action. Take something as simple as stubbing your toe. If you're like me, when you stub your toe, you scream enough four-letter words to make Pope Francis cry. You also probably blame some poor inanimate object for your suffering. Stupid fucking table, you say. Or maybe you even go so far as to question your entire interior design philosophy based on your throbbing foot. What kind of idiot puts a table there anyway? Seriously. But I digress. That horrible stubbed toe-induced pain, the one you and I and the Pope hate so much, exists for an important reason. Physical pain is a product of our nervous system, a feedback mechanism to give us a sense of our own physical proportions, where we can and cannot move, and what we can and cannot touch. When we exceed those limits, our nervous system duly punishes us to make sure that we pay attention and never do it again. I wish I would never do it again. I stub my toe all the time. And this pain, as much as we hate it, is useful. Pain is what teaches us what to pay attention to when we're young or careless. It helps show us what's good for us versus what's bad for us. It helps us understand and adhere to our own limitations. It teaches us to not fuck around near hot stoves or stick metal objects into electrical sockets. Therefore, it's not always beneficial to avoid pain and seek pleasure. To avoid pain, and seek pleasure, since pain can, at times, be life or death important to our well-being. But pain is not merely physical, and as anyone who knows and has had to sit through the first Star Wars prequel can tell you, we humans are capable of experiencing acute psychological pain as well. In fact, researchers found that our brains don't register much difference between physical pain and psychological pain. So when I tell you that my first girlfriend cheating on me and leaving me felt like having an ice pick slowly inserted into the centre of my heart, that's because, well, it hurts so much, I might as well have had an ice pick slowly inserted into the centre of my heart. Like physical pain, our psychological pain is an indication of something out of equilibrium, some limitation that has been exceeded. And like physical pain, our psychological pain is not necessarily always bad or even undesirable. In some cases, experiencing emotional or psychological pain can be healthy or necessary. Just like stubbing our toe teaches us to walk into fewer tables, the emotional pain of rejection or failure teaches us how to avoid making the same mistake in the future. And this is what's so dangerous about a society that coddles itself more and more from the inevitable discomforts of life. We lose the benefits of experiencing healthy doses of pain. A loss that disconnects us from the reality of the world around us. And that's what Instagram is doing. It's fucking everybody up because they think no one is experiencing pain but them. So you may salivate at the thought of a problem-free life full of everlasting happiness and eternal compassion, but back here on Earth, the problems never cease. Seriously, problems don't ever end. This appointment panda just dropped by. We had margaritas and he told me all about it. Problems never fucking go away, he said. They just improve. Warren Buffett's got money problems. Okay, and he's one of the richest men in the world, Warren Buffett. The drunk hobo down at Quickie Mart's got money problems. Buffett's just got better money problems than the hobo. All of life is like this. Life is essentially an endless series of problems, Mark, the panda told me. He sipped his drink and adjusted the little pink umbrella. The solution to one problem is merely the creation of the next one. A moment passed and then I wondered where the fuck the talking panda came from, and while we were at it, who made these margaritas? Don't hope for a life without problems, the panda said. There's no such thing. Instead, hope for a life full of good problems. And with that, he set his glass down, adjusted his sombrero, and sauntered off into the sunset. So that's Disappointment Panda. We're going to look at happiness comes from solving problems in a second. What do you think so far? Again, I fucking love it. Absolutely love it. Who's suffering now? Like, who's got some problems, like, right now, where you're like, actually, you know what? I'm suffering a little bit, and I've been wallowing in it because I felt like I shouldn't be suffering because it isn't a necessary part of life. When actually, it really is, and maybe now you get a slightly different perspective on it, where you're like, oh, okay, well, wait a minute. This is necessary. I'm learning from this. Something's out of equilibrium. I've got to make a change. And ultimately, like, you have to, or you're going to stay stuck exactly where you are. And nobody wants to stay in hell, you know, if that's where you feel you are right now, for too long. Tony Rossi just said, I just started a segment on my podcast called Not Perfect, hashtag Not Perfect. It shares my embarrassing moments, plus encourages others to share theirs on social media, trying to make it less of a highlight reel. True, Tony, that's good, man. You'll see on my vlog, I mean, God, I'd like, you know, just an idiot, basically. I try not to hide anything on the vlog. If I walk into somebody or I fall over because of my eyesight, just leave it in. It's absolutely fine. Hashtag Not Perfect, 100%. Jack says, this was a perfect moment to suddenly join the stream. Nice one, Jack. Disappointment Panda tells me I should have been here from the start. Jack, man, you know, Disappointment Panda, come around your house, he's going to kick your ass. Steve says that's the best line. Don't know what you're referring to, Steve, but it's good, isn't it? Stepping on a plug, says Caroline. Shit, that's horrible as well, isn't it? Oh, but that's just biological evolution going, Caroline. Don't step on fucking plugs because they'll hurt you a lot. Make sure your plugs are either in the wall or they're tucked well away. Or a piece of Lego, says Caroline. Yeah, that's bad as well. Definitely. Bobby says, I've honestly had a bit of a rut over the last week. You helped me a lot, though, with the think of 3 things you're grateful for idea. So I always say, when you are like, you know, let's be honest, right? I say this all the time. There is not a single person I know who's ever achieved something great in their lives who has not like needed help coping at some point in their life. You know, we've all needed help coping. Fucking hell, you know, myself, I have big time at times in my life. really struggle with shit. Big things happen in my life. I'm like, fuck, how do I get through this? But you find a way. You always will. You will always find, if you ask for help. So you've got to, not be afraid of vulnerability and actually showing it. But yeah, I always come back to gratitude now. Whenever I'm feeling low about anything in my life, it means you are always, whenever you're feeling sad or lonely or whatever, just like try and catch what you're focusing on, because I promise you, you will be focusing on loss. That's absolutely what you're focusing on. What you don't have. I don't have this. I don't look like that. I'm not this kind of person. I don't have that money. I don't have that house, that girlfriend, that boyfriend. All this shit I'm seeing on social media. I promise you, when you're feeling down, you cannot be doing anything other than focusing on loss. Now, that makes you feel sad. Now, the emotions of sadness and gratitude are completely incongruent. They cannot live in the same space in your head at the same time. You can't be sad and grateful at the same time. You just can't. Try it. I can't be angry and grateful at the same time. I can't go, fucking hell, I'm so grateful that I'm living in the UK and I've got all the opportunity that I want if I just get up off my arse and take it. I can't. You just can't. It doesn't work. So I always come back to gratitude. Good evening, Gary. If you're ever feeling like shit, literally come back to gratitude every single time. The little tiny things you have right now in your life, and you'll have a ton of them if you look for them. The fact that wherever you are right now, you've got a phone or a laptop or, some kind of computer, some kind of device to watch or listen to me right now. You've got the internet because you're streaming this. You live in an incredible world. To be honest, that's all you need right now to create an online business and actually have success, what you're actually watching me on right now. Hopefully you'll have, friends or even a friend, somebody who supports you. A parent might still be in your life. You might have family around you. Food. Coffee. You might be having a coffee, you're listening to a coffee shop right now and you go, I've got nothing in my life. You've got, fucking hell, you sat in a coffee shop listening to this on a podcast, right? Do you know how what kind of percentage you are in terms of the population of the earth? You're probably in the top 2-3% of people on the planet, financially, who can go and sit in a coffee shop with the internet, listen to a podcast on their phone. It's insane, even if you feel you have nothing. I say it all the time, the odds of being born a human being are 400 trillion to 1. When you're like, oh, I'm a loser, I never win anything, you fucking won. You were the 400 trillion to 1 odds of becoming a human being on the planet. Now, what are you going to do about it? Sit around in a shower of shit, just wallowing? Or are you going to realise, like we're reading in this book, that, that happiness is a problem in terms of everybody is going to have problems regardless of whether they're happy or not. You just aim to have better quality problems. I try to learn something when I'm down, says Gary. There's always a lesson to be learned, 100%. And it is biologically, suffering, like Mark said in his book, is absolutely biologically necessary. It's the thing that's going to ultimately guide you down, hopefully, the right path. Because you go, God, if this has really upset me or done me in, I'm not doing that again. I've learned from that. Now I know I was maybe on the wrong path. Now I'm back on the right path. You need to go through that so you could become my mentor and enjoy all the perks that come with it, says Bobby. Pleasure, Bobby. It's no problem, man. So let's have a little look at this then. Happiness comes from solving problems, all right? Problems are a constant in life. When you solve your health problem by buying a gym membership, you create new problems like having to get up early to get to the gym on time, sweating like a meth head for 30 minutes on an elliptical, and then getting showered and changed for work so you don't stink up the whole office. When you solve your problem of not spending enough time with your partner by designating Wednesday night date night, you generate new problems, such as figuring out what to do every Wednesday that you both won't hate, making sure you have enough money for nice dinners, rediscovering the chemistry and spark you two feel you've lost, and unraveling the logistics of fucking in a small bathtub filled with too many bubbles. Problems never stop. They merely get exchanged and / upgraded. Happiness comes from solving problems. The key word here is solving. If you're avoiding your problems or feeling like you don't have any problems, then you're going to make yourself miserable. If you feel like you have problems that you can't solve, you will likewise make yourself miserable. The secret sauce is in the solving of the problems, not in not having problems in the first place. To be happy, we need to be solving something. Happiness is therefore a form of action. It's an activity, not something that is passively bestowed upon us. Not something that you magically discover in a top 10 article on the Huffington Post or from any specific guru or teacher. It doesn't magically appear when you finally make enough money to add on that extra room to the house. You don't find it waiting for you in a place, an idea, a job, or even a book for that matter. Happiness is a constant work in progress. Because solving problems is a constant work in progress. The solutions to today's problems will lay the foundation for tomorrow's problems, and so on and so on. True happiness occurs only when you find the problems you enjoy having and enjoy solving. Sometimes these problems are simple: eating good food, travelling to some new place, winning at a new video game you just bought. Other times those problems are abstract and complicated. Fixing your relationship with your mother, finding a career you can feel good about, developing better friendships. Whatever your problems are, the concept is the same though. Solve problems, be happy. Unfortunately, for many people, life doesn't feel that simple. That's because they fuck things up in at least one of two ways. Let's have a look at the ways you might be fucking yourself up. Caroline said, this reminds me of that Will Smith movie. Oh, The Pursuit of Happiness. Steve says, shower of shite. Don't you just wallow in a shower of shite, Steve. So, right, this is how you fuck up your life in two ways. One, denial. Some people deny their problems exist in the first place. And because they deny reality, they must constantly delude or distract themselves from reality. This may make them feel good in the short term, but it leads to a life of insecurity, neuroticism, and emotional repression. 2, victim mentality. Something I can't fucking stand. It's the most unattractive trait in anybody, man or woman. Ugh. Victim mentality. Some choose to believe that there is nothing they can do to solve their problems, even when, in fact, they could. Victims seek to blame others for their problems or blame outside circumstances. This may make them feel better in the short term, but it leads to a life of anger, helplessness, and despair. I've met more and more actors recently who are telling me, yeah, but there's so much in this industry, it's out of your hands, isn't there? I'm like, so much in this fucking industry, it's in your hands. Like, again, you're focusing on what you can't control. Quit focusing on what you can't control. Focus on what you can control, because you can control 50% of it. You might be able to control 51% of it. Therefore, there's only 49% of it out of your hands. But when you take action to solve the problems, then you've got way more chance of having success than going, oh, you know what, yeah, but there's so much that's out of my control, you know, I'm just going to sit here and fucking do nothing. Stop being a loser. People deny and blame others for their problems for the simple reason that it's easy and it feels good, while solving problems is hard and often feels bad. Forms of blame and denial give us a quick high. They're a way to temporarily escape our problems, and that escape can provide us a quick rush that makes us feel better. Highs come in many forms, whether it's substance like alcohol, the moral righteousness that comes from blaming others, or the thrill of some new risky adventures. Highs are shallow and unproductive ways to go about one's life. Much of the self-help world is predicated on peddling highs to people rather than solving legitimate problems. I agree with that massively. Many self-help gurus teach you new forms of denial and pump you up with exercises that feel good in the short term while ignoring the underlying issue. Remember, nobody who is actually happy has to stand in front of a mirror and tell himself that he's happy. It's that whole I'm happy bullshit. I think psychologically, studies have said it can increase your mood by 2 to 3%. So it might be enough literally to just get you out of bed, but it ain't going to, it's not going to help you take over the world. Highs are also generate addiction. The more you rely on them to feel better about your underlying problems, the more you will seek them out. In this sense, almost anything can become addictive, depending on the motivation behind using it. We all have our chosen methods to numb the pain of our problems, and in moderate doses, there is nothing wrong with this. But the longer we avoid and the longer we numb, the more painful it will be when we finally do confront our issues. So that's the thing. Again, don't deny. Got an itchy eye here. Sorry, on the audio experience, you can't see this. Scratching my eye. Don't deny you've got shit going on. One of the worst things you can do. You got to face it. And again, accept it. I want everyone to embrace the problem that they have right now. Everyone here is going to have a problem. I'm sure you've all got problems. I've got problems right now. And it's fucking liberating when you're like, actually, you know what? I'm going to own the shit out of this problem because this is part of me becoming a better person. Because I'm going to solve it, and solving it is going to feel good, and solving this problem is going to lead to happiness. Emotions are overrated. Emotions evolved for one specific purpose, to help us live and reproduce a little bit better. That's it. They're feedback mechanisms telling us that something is either likely right or likely wrong for us. Nothing more, nothing less. So emotions tell you whether something's right for you or wrong for you. Bobby says there's a YouTuber called Roaming Millennial who routinely calls out people who use their victim privilege. It's very satisfying. Yeah, I fucking hate victims. It's like, oh, God, stop it. Do you think healing is the right word for emotional problems, as in you can heal your life, says Gary? I think for me, the word healing just ultimately is like putting things back on track, mending things, making things, more bearable if it was emotions, or like, to heal for me is like to rejuvenate, to feel. You can heal emotionally, but still recognize that actually, like, that time in your life that caused the terrible emotions was still terrible. It just doesn't affect you like that anymore. But yeah, interesting word. David, all right, David, hope you're well. And Bobby says, this Saturday I'm going to have to navigate myself through a different country on my own for the first time. Bobby's coming to the UK from Ireland. Bobby, you're going to be fine, mate. Rely on your emotions are going to tell you whether something's good or bad. So yeah, let's have a look at that again, right? So emotions are feedback mechanisms, right? Telling us that something is either likely right or likely wrong for us. Nothing more, nothing less. Much as the pain of touching a hot stove teaches you not to touch it again, the sadness of being alone teaches you not to do the things that made you feel so alone again. Emotions are simply biological signals designed to nudge you in the direction of beneficial change. Look, I don't mean to make light of your midlife crisis or the fact that your drunk dad stole your bike when you were 8 years old and you still haven't gotten over it, but when it comes down to it, if you feel crappy, it's because your brain is telling you that there's a problem that's unaddressed or unresolved. And in other words, negative emotions are a call to action. So once again, if you're feeling like shit, it's a fucking call to action. Stand up, let's do something about it. When you feel them, it's because you're supposed to do something. Positive emotions, on the other hand, are rewards for taking the proper action. When you feel them, life simply seems simple and there's nothing else to do but enjoy it. Then, like everything else, the positive emotions go away because more problems inevitably emerge. Emotions are part of the equation of our lives, but not the entire equation. Just because something feels good doesn't mean it's good. Just because something feels bad doesn't mean it's bad. Emotions are merely signposts or suggestions that our neurobiology gives us, not commandments. Therefore, we shouldn't always trust our own emotions, and in fact, I believe we should make a habit of questioning them. So, Bobby, don't trust your emotions, actually. Many people are taught to repress their emotions. Yeah, this is bad. For various personal, social, or cultural reasons, particularly negative emotions. Sadly, to deny one's negative emotions is to deny many of the feedback mechanisms that help a person solve problems. As a result, many of these repressed individuals struggle to deal with problems throughout their lives. And if they can't solve problems, then they can't be happy, remember? Remember, like solving problems, progress I would call it, making progress feels fucking good in every area of your life. That's what I would class as happiness. So it doesn't mean you have to solve the problem. It has to be solved. Solving the problem is good enough. The process. So, but yeah, then there are people... remember, so pain serves a purpose, okay? Then there are people who over-identify with their emotions. Everything is justified for no other reason than they felt it. Oh, I broke your windshield, but I was really mad. Fucking what a loser. I couldn't help it. Yes, you can. Or I dropped out of school and moved to Alaska just because it felt right. That's fucking nonsense. Do you know what? The amount of relationships that get screwed up because people these days expect it to be like a fairy tale and it just to feel right without working on it is just insane. Decision making based on emotional intuition without the aid of reason to keep it in line pretty much always sucks. You know who bases their entire lives on their emotions? 3-year-old kids. Very true. And dogs, by the way. You know what else 3-year-olds and dogs do? Shit on the carpet. An obsession and overinvestment in emotion fails us for the simple reason that emotions never last. Whatever makes us happy today will no longer make us happy tomorrow because our biology always needs something more. A fixation on happiness inevitably amounts to a never-ending pursuit of something else. A new house, a new relationship, another child, another pay rise. And despite all of our sweat and strain, we end up feeling eerily similar to how we started, and that's inadequate. Psychologists sometimes refer to this concept as the hedonic treadmill. The idea that we're always working hard to change our life situation, but we actually never feel very different. This is why our problems are recursive and unavoidable. The person you marry is the person you fight with. The house you buy is the house you repair. The dream job you take is the job you stress over. Everything comes with an inherent sacrifice. Whatever makes us feel good will also inevitably make us feel bad, and what we gain is also what we lose. What creates our positive experiences will define our negative experiences. This is a difficult pill to swallow. We like the idea that there's some form of ultimate happiness that can be attained. We like the idea that we can alleviate all of our suffering permanently. We like the idea that we can feel fulfilled and satisfied with our lives forever, but we cannot. So the last part of the chapter we're going to read today is called Choosing the Struggle. It's what we want everybody to do. I think it's valuable. Not get addicted to the struggle, because a lot of people get into that mindset where like they become completely addicted to the struggle. And they're the people who have a very scarcity-based mindset. They're people who never have enough time, never have enough money, never have enough anything, and always procrastinate, putting off. What we want to do is embrace the fucking struggle, own it, and break through it. So everyone's saying here, if you're coming to London, Bobby, let's meet up for a coffee, says Warren. Bobby, if you get into London, get yourself down, see Warren for a brew. And Bobby thinks there's a very strong chance he's going to end up in Geneva. Definitely. That's funny. So yeah, let's have a look at owning our own struggles, right? And whether that's in the acting industry, out the acting industry, it's part of life. I want people to be like, yes, I'm fighting this and I'm winning, right? Choose your struggle. If I ask you, what do you want out of life? And you say something like, I want to be happy and have a great family and a job I like. Your response is so common and expected that it doesn't really mean anything. Everyone enjoys what feels good. Everyone wants to live a carefree, happy and easy life. To fall in love and have amazing sex and relationships, to look perfect and make money and be popular and well respected and admired and a total baller to the point that people part like the Red Sea when they walk into the room. Everyone wants that. It's easy to want that. A more interesting question, a question that most people never consider, is this. What pain do you want in your life? What are you willing to struggle for? Because that seems to be a greater determinant of how our lives turn out. For example, most people want to get the corner office and make a boatload of money. But not many people want to suffer through 60-hour work weeks, long commutes, obnoxious paperwork, and arbitrary corporate hierarchies to escape the confines of an infinite cubicle hell. Most people want to have great sex and an awesome relationship, but not everyone is willing to go through the tough conversations, the awkward silences, the hurt feelings, and the emotional psychodrama to get there. And so they settle. They settle and wonder, what if? For years and years, until the question morphs from what if into what else. And when the lawyers go home and the alimony check is in the mail, they say, what for? If not for their lowered standards and expectations 20 years prior, then what for? Because happiness requires struggle. It grows from problems. Joy doesn't just sprout out of the ground like daisies and rainbows. Real, serious, lifelong fulfillment and meaning have to be earned through the choosing and managing of our struggles. Whether you suffer from anxiety or loneliness or obsessive-compulsive disorder or a dickhead boss who ruins half of your waking hours every day, the solution lies in the acceptance and active engagement of that negative experience. Not the avoidance of it, not the salvation from it. People want an amazing physique, but you don't end up with one unless you legitimately appreciate the pain and physical stress that comes with living inside a gym for hour upon hour, unless you love calculating and calibrating the food you eat, planning your life out in tiny plate-sized portions. People want to start their own business, but you don't end up a successful entrepreneur unless you find a way to appreciate the risk, the uncertainty, the repeated failures, the insane hours devoted to something that may earn absolutely nothing. People want a partner, a spouse, but you don't end up attracting someone amazing without appreciating the emotional turbulence that comes with weathering rejections, building the sexual tension that never gets released, and staring blankly at a phone that never rings. Oh, God. Oh, it's true. It's part of the game of love. You can't win if you don't play. What determines your success isn't what you do want to enjoy. The relevant question is, what pain do you want to sustain? The path to happiness is a path full of shit heaps and shame. You have to choose something. You can't have a pain-free life. It can't all be roses and unicorns all the time. Pleasure is the easy question, and pretty much all of us have a similar answer. The more interesting question is the pain. What is the pain that you want to sustain? That's the hard question that matters, the question that will actually get you somewhere. It's the question that can change a perspective, a life. It's what makes me, me, and you. It's what defines us and separates us and ultimately brings us together. For most of my adolescence and young adulthood, I fantasized about being a musician, a rock star in particular. Any badass guitar song I heard, I'd always close my eyes and envisage myself up on stage playing it. to the screams of the crowd, people absolutely losing their minds to my sweet finger noodling glory. This fantasy could keep me occupied for hours on end. For me, it was never a question of if I'd ever be up in front of the screaming crowds, but when. I had it all planned out. I was simply biding my time before I could invest the proper amount of energy and effort into getting out there and making my mark. First, I needed to finish school. Then I needed to make some extra money to buy gear. Then I needed to find enough free time to practice. Then I had to network and plan my first project. Then, nothing. Despite my fantasizing about this for over half my lifetime, the reality never came to fruition. And it took me a long time and a lot of struggle to finally figure out why. I didn't actually want it. I was in love with the result, the image of me on stage, people cheering me, rocking out, pouring my heart into what I was playing, but I wasn't in love with the process. And because of that, I failed at it repeatedly. Hell, I didn't even try hard enough to fail at it. I hardly tried at all. The daily drudgery of practicing, the logistics of finding a group and rehearsing, the pain of finding gigs and actually getting people to show up and giving a shit, the broken strings, the blown tube amp, hauling 40 pounds of gear to and from rehearsals with no car. It's a mountain of a dream and a mile-high climb to the top. And what it took me a long time to discover is that I didn't like to climb very much. I just liked to imagine the summit. The common cultural narratives would tell me that I somehow failed myself, that I'm a quitter or a loser, that I just didn't have it, that I gave up on my dream and that maybe I let myself succumb to the pressures of society. But the truth is far less interesting than any of these explanations. The truth is, I thought I wanted something, but it turns out I didn't. End of story. I wanted the reward and not the struggle. I wanted the result and not the process. I was in love with not the fight, but only the victory. And life doesn't work that way. Who you are is defined by what you're willing to struggle for. People who enjoy the struggles of a gym are the ones who run triathlons and have chiseled abs and can bench press a small house. People who enjoy long work weeks and the politics of the corporate ladder are the ones who fly to the top of it. People who enjoy the stresses and uncertainties of the starving artist lifestyle are ultimately the ones who live it and make it. This is not about willpower or grit. This is not another admonishment of no pain, no gain. This is the most simple and basic component of life. Our struggles determine our successes. I'll say it again. Our struggles determine our successes, along with slightly better, slightly upgraded problems. See, it's a never-ending upward spiral. And if you think at any point you're allowed to stop climbing, I'm afraid you're missing the point, because the joy is in the climb itself. Because the joy is in the climb itself. Boom. And that's chapter 2 of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Ultimately, it's about embracing struggle and realizing that, you know what, you want to be an actor and you want to be at the top of the game. That's actually what you want. You better enjoy the pain of uncertainty, the struggle of putting work out there, of being seen. You better enjoy sending a dozen emails out and getting no replies. You better enjoy putting on shows and no one turning up. You better enjoy putting videos out on YouTube and no one watching. Because if you don't fucking enjoy that, then you might as well go and find something else to do. Because that's the struggle, the climb, and like that's actually the bit you should be enjoying. As opposed to the prize. The prize will come. Oh my god, this is so true, says Wendy. The occasional rose and passing unicorn would be nice, isn't it? Definitely, and that will happen when you look for it. You will see chinks of light coming through the clouds at times. But I mean, God, when I look back, you know, my career, I'm doing all right, but crikey, I mean, what am I on now? I'm probably on year... Wow, like from actually going, right, this is actually what I want to do, I'm probably on at least year 20, year 21. And I'm nowhere near where I want to be. But you know what? If someone was to give it me all tomorrow, I don't quite know how I'd feel about it, because I genuinely do feel that what I like in this industry, and this sounds so weird, but genuinely, and I really mean this, I'm not saying this for effect, I almost like that in my career, a lot of people have promised me stuff in my career, right? I'm not going to say who, but people have definitely promised me. Casting directors that I've met and helped out have promised me stuff. Directors, producers, lots of people who I have given to unconditionally, and I have, you know, and I've asked for nothing back. Ultimately, I do that. That's where I operate from in life. I think it's the right thing to do. You don't do something for someone else to get something in return. But people have offered me or promised me things. So few of those things have come off, both inside my career and out of my career. Like, they just haven't materialized. People's standards have not been high enough to sustain those promises, or maybe people have forgot, etc., etc., etc. in a way, I freaking love it. Because I know, right, I've taken it absolutely for granted since as long as I can remember that I am going to be mega successful and will have the career that I want, and I'm nowhere near it yet. But I know, in a way, because of the struggle, because of the fight, because of the climb, and it's almost like I'm out there, not on my own, but, you know, with a tiny team of people who actually do stand by me and support me, include all you guys in that. I'm so grateful for you spending time with me on these broadcasts and being part of what I've created and stuff, and helping me, you know, evolve that. But it just means that the prize when I get there, hitting that summit, is going to feel so much sweeter because you don't have that many people to thank. Whereas if somebody literally just put a rope around me now and hauled me up to the top of the mountain in a couple of days, I went, there you go, there's your BAFTA for that. You know, there's your primetime show for that. There's your 6-part drama for that. You got all that now. And I did it within the next 2 years. I'd be fucking bored, shitless for the rest of my life. So in a way, and that's not justifying things going, oh, well, I would prefer not to have success. Of course we all want success now. But as long as, for me, it's that progress we talked about in that chapter, it's solving problems on the daily, that's kind of enough right now. It feels good. Progress feels good. You are awesome to be with, Ross, says Dawn. Thank you, Dawn. You are as well. Yeah, it's like, honestly, like, I promise you, like, people, imagine if you just won the lottery tomorrow. We all dream about this. And I say every Friday when I put the Euro Millions on, oh, it's a £200 million jackpot tonight. Oh, that'd be amazing, wouldn't it? And I still think it would be amazing. Of course it would, right? I'm not one of these people who's like, oh, that's too much for me. Well, fuck off. If it's too much for you, give it away. You don't have to keep it all. If you only want $1 million, give 199 million away. I'd love to try and see what it's like. But ultimately, how many people have we seen who have been given it all and have completely lost their shit because they just don't have it together? I think when you have some struggle in your life and you are working towards something, when you are given opportunity, you're given stuff, you appreciate it so much more and you won't go off the rails because you'll be way more grounded and you'll get it a little bit more. I just think, yeah, if suddenly all of the fight was taken off us tomorrow and the struggle and the pain in life, I don't know really what we'd kind of do. I think it would be a little bit boring. And again, you would like the king's son in that chapter, you know, you wouldn't feel a purpose. Everything would feel empty. So embrace the struggles in your life and realize that they're biologically necessary for you to become a better person, psychologically or physically. What's going on here? I need to hear this tonight, says Wendy. Thank you. Thank you, Wendy. I'm glad you have heard it. But yeah, honestly, if you're going through pain, Wendy, and there's something going on in your life right now, it's absolutely going to make you. It's biologically going to make you solve that problem. You're going to have to. You've got no choice. You've got to change. It's like a barometer. Going, wait a minute, Wendy, you're in the wrong direction here. You just need to move 5 degrees to the right and keep walking that way for a little bit, and then you'll get through this bad patch, and then you'll feel some great emotions, some positive emotions. But you know what? You won't feel it forever. Of course, there's going to be problems again. It's part of life. Gary says, yeah, I want to work with actors again, and it takes ages to find the right part for someone. Think if they saw the right part for you, some will probably remember. What's that? What's that for, Gary? In terms of just any actor getting a job, it takes freaking ages. Unless you're doing your own stuff. You can sit there and wait for a writer to write a part that just happens to suit you perfectly, and that casting director to just happen to know you exist, and that audition to happen to come up at the right time for you to go and get it. Or you can put your own work out there and you can do stuff, and you can be solving problems on the daily and making you feel like you're making progress, and you're going to be way more fulfilled because you're being creative. I saw an advert for Age Before Beauty earlier, Ross. Nice one, Caroline. Age Before Beauty, new BBC drama. I'm in episode 3. Play a guy called Mitchell. He's a bit of a sleaze. Look out for that. Nice one, Caroline. Cheers for the heads up on that. I'd give you a good $4,000. What for, Bobby? What are you talking about? I think I might miss some of these comments on Facebook. Apologies for that. Do you think people that get sudden early major success suffer because they haven't struggled, worry that their success may disappear? Definitely, David. Honestly, I think there's merits in it who wouldn't want to be plucked out of drama school and given a job straight away, but I think it hits them harder in life if suddenly they stop having that success. Hits them much, much harder because they're like, holy shit, like, I've just been given everything since I came out of drama school. Maybe I frittered that money away, or I became complacent. I took this for granted. I wasn't grateful for the opportunities I had because they came my way so easily. I think every success you have, you've got to be so ridiculously grateful for, and you've got to be grateful for the small things in order to be grateful for the large things as well. If you can't enjoy what you have now, promise you, well, if you have nothing right now and you can't be grateful for what you do have, I promise you could win the fucking lottery tomorrow. You still wouldn't be grateful for that. You would become complacent. You can't. have happiness in the future if you can't have happiness now, like with what you have. They're the people who are most like emotionally like masters of their own emotions. The people who can be happy when they don't have anything. They're the ones who can be happiest when they have everything. But I agree with that, David, definitely. If it comes too easy, then it doesn't have any value, says Wendy. Definitely. I remember as a kid, honestly, my mum taught me this. Again, I owe my mum like so much for just teaching me. She's just great, you know, like for teaching me a lot of these kind of concepts very, very young. And she didn't even know what she was doing. My mum's not mindful at all. I think she just fluked this. But like when I was a kid, I had a paper round, right? And I was only £6.25 a week. And I was working 6 days for that. I got £1 and 5p a day. So I get £6.30 actually a week. And I wanted a Nintendo 64 games console. And I remember I had a little Tupperware pot in my front room. And every Saturday when I got paid, I would put my £6.30 into that. Or maybe if I bought a magazine from the shop, I might buy a computer game magazine. It might be £2. I put like £4 away, whatever. And I saved up 250 quid over a year, well over a year to get that money. And I remember it was in this pot, and this games console came out on a Friday night, and I thought I was going to get it on the Saturday morning with my dad. And I went downstairs, and my pot of money was freaking empty. The night before, it had over 250 quid in it, and I went, holy shit, I thought we'd been robbed. I was like, oh my God. On the morning, I'm going to buy this thing that I have like given my all blood, sweat, and tears for over this last year. I've been robbed, and I hadn't. My dad was working nights, right? And my brother came home, and I didn't know they were doing a midnight launch at this computer game shop at night. And my dad had been out the night before with my brother and bought it. And then my dad came in like 10 minutes later with this big bag. And he's like, there you go, mate. We went and got it last night. And I'm like, oh my God. And then he even made me go to the shop to get him a paper before I could even open it, though. That was like the fastest trip to the paper shop in my life to get back and open this Nintendo 64. And I just remember sitting there playing with it going like, oh my God, like this means so much, because every pound that bought this was mine. Every pound like meant one day's work for me, basically, on this paper round. And it felt amazing. And one of my mates had very rich parents who my parents weren't rich at all. Still had, you know, not grateful, you know, had everything that I needed growing up and stuff, but very working class. And my friends' parents were lawyers. They were loaded, absolutely loaded. And I just bought him one. The difference between the way I treated that Nintendo 64 and the way he treated that Nintendo 64, man, it's like worlds apart. Because to him, it was disposable. It's like, oh, if I break it, I'll just get a new one, not bothered. Or, you know, I was there cleaning my controllers every night, like, you know, and like putting it away and like making sure there was no dust on it and making sure the games were pristine and no creases in the cardboard boxes. And it just meant the world. So I think when you're working like in your acting career towards that thing and you finally get it, you get that acknowledgement, you get that role, you win that award, whatever it is for you, when you've worked for it, it's so fucking sweet. It's just so much better when you've enjoyed the climb and the struggle, and you've owned the climb and you've owned the struggle, and you've realized that actually this is necessary. This isn't here, you know, to break me. This is here to make me, like, you know, it's just so much better. Lovely story, says Caroline. I remember it like yesterday, Caroline. It meant the world. When I first got my first salary job, I bought my mother's dinner, says Bobby. That's class act, Bobby. That's acting with class, man. Wendy earned £1.50 a week from her paper round. Freaking hell, Wendy. I was getting £6.30 a week. I bet they get like 50 quid nowadays. It's interesting. Lee saying he's doing we're doing a show reel, Lee, with Chris Stone next month. On the phone today, organising my new show reel. He speaks so highly of you, Ross. I can't wait to work with him and Dawn Wolf next Monday. It's awesome. That's nice to hear, Fletch. But Dawn's brilliant. If you're working with Dawn, you'll get a fantastic scene, man. Really, really good. But yeah, like the struggle is everything, man. Like the process. Let's not call it a struggle. It's just the process you've got to go through. It's what you've got to do. Definitely. Oh, and you were saying, Gary, before about promising actors jobs, but obviously, yeah, you were saying it takes ages to find the right part for somebody. Yeah. No, I agree. People can wait a lifetime for a part that changes their life. Definitely. Love listening to other people's stories, says Emily. All right, Emily, how you doing? They just inspire me. You're on a Nintendo 64 story, right? Honestly, just what you've got to do is look at every day, right? Look at it. I'll end on this. I'm going to talk a little bit about like a couple of other things before I go. But every day you put the hustle in, right? And you get up and you work towards something in your career. And every single day you might just send one email. You might get in contact with somebody, network with someone, find someone on LinkedIn, create a piece of content, whatever it is for you. Look at that as a deposit, right? And you are just putting a deposit into the bank. And you might have to put like 3,000 deposits in until that bank, with interest allows you to make a withdrawal. But if you've put all of those deposits in, each of those deposits is making interest every single freaking day for you, even though you can't see it. And it might be tiny. This is like the great thing about compound interest, right? You've got to look at that. Every single action you are taking is putting a deposit into the bank. It's like when I'm running marathons, right? When I first started running marathons, I would go out and say like, I plan to run like just 2 miles or something like that. I didn't go, oh, it's only 2 miles I've done. I mean, that was amazing when I was first started running. I couldn't run a single mile without stopping. I looked at it as not kind of like achieving particular times or distances or this sort of stuff. I was depositing miles into my legs. Didn't matter if it was 1 mile, there's another mile in the legs. There's another 3 miles in the legs. Long run, okay, I've just put 6 miles in my legs today. Look at that as your career. Every single action you are taking, you're just putting a deposit into the bank. And at some point, I promise you, with interest, you're going to be able to make a withdrawal if you don't close your account. But too many fucking people will close their account before they make a withdrawal. Or they'll go to a different bank to try and make a withdrawal from a bank they've put nothing into. It just doesn't work, right? So you've got to keep slamming in those deposits. I hope you found it interesting. I think it's a great book. If you want to get the rest of the book, it's on Amazon. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. Absolutely fantastic. I'm going to play you another great little story. I'm going to play you a 60-second clip of my vlog today, youtube.com/Watch Ross. I had Isabel Steele, the actress of Emmerdale, on my vlog this week. This came out on yesterday, didn't it? Came out yesterday. It's going down a storm. It's had more views than the week before already. It's only been out a day. But she tells a story about how she initially auditioned for a role in Emmerdale that she didn't get. And she felt the whole world had collapsed around her. She wanted to give up and do a different career. ITV kept her in mind for a different role, and that was the role they brought her in for. And her alone, no one else came into audition for that other role. And it was the role of Liv, Danny Miller, Aaron, his character name. His half-sister, Liv Flaherty, in Emmerdale. Massive character now. She's been in it 2.5 years. It's changed her life. But the initial audition she went for in Emmerdale, she didn't get the role she went for. When casting directors say they're going to keep you in mind, they really will keep you in mind. Here's a 60-second clip. Check it out.
Not to blow my trumpet, but I was like, I couldn't do any better. If I don't get this audition, if I don't get this part, I'm just not good enough, And then I was going to be pretty disappointed. And I didn't get that part.
Welcome everybody to episode 38 of Watch Ross, the one where we're only filming till 4:30 because Petch has got a play rehearsal.
I never wanted to say I was going to be an actor because it sort of feels so unattainable. It feels like you can never get that.
I'm just catching some rays. Why don't you come and catch some rays with me for 5 minutes? In order to make this happen quickly, right, you've got to actually see it so clearly. The first step, like I said last night on the broadcast, to achieving anything is clarity.
Everything happens for a reason. Don't let a no just make you want to change career, because that's what it did for me. I was like, right, I'm going to be something else. But no, I think just sort of stick with it. If you want to do it, crack on.
Boom. So there you go. 60 seconds. You also see me lying down in Media City having a little bit of a sunbathe. Security were like, what's happened? Has he passed out? I hadn't. It's a really great interview. Go to youtube.com/Watch Ross, okay, and subscribe. If you do subscribe, I'm going to be drawing a subscriber at the end of this month in less than 2 weeks now, and I'm going to be paying for your Spotlight subscription, or ultimately just giving you £150 in cash. So yeah, if you want to, that's a legitimate draw. 2 people have won it in the past. I'm not bullshitting you. I'm going to PayPal you £150 cash. Spend it on whatever you like. I hope you would invest it in something that's going to benefit your life. But if you want to go and spend it on sun and sangria somewhere on holiday, do that. Do whatever you like. But you need to go to youtube.com/Watch Ross, hit the subscribe button, and then comment on an episode. Every comment you leave on an episode ultimately is like an entry into the draw. I'll be doing the draw on the last day of July. I might even do it live on the vlog or live on one of these broadcasts as well. But yeah, if you go over youtube.com/Watch Ross, hit the little bell to get notifications. Every time I put a new episode up every single Monday, you'll get a notification saying, hey, Ross has just put up a new video. Go check it out. And then you don't miss out on a thing. Just to have some great guests on. Got some great guests lined up. And ultimately, again, I just hope it's going to inspire you a little bit to just see what I'm doing in my life, what's going on. We're going to, meet other people from the acting industry, also just from other areas of life. Nothing to do with acting, sometimes online business. Some stuff literally just for fun. You get to see other elements of my life, like at the moment designing my apartment and trying to get a bloody kitchen, which is going on for way too long. But yeah, hopefully there's stuff there to entertain, to motivate, and to educate as well. So youtube.com/watch Ross. Do check that out. We'll just do one last thing as well. I'm going to just bring up my web browser. And just say that the live broadcast that I did last week with Humans, casting director Victor Jenkins, also cast Broadchurch, also cast Unforgotten that started this week on TV as well. Incredible TV drama. That live broadcast recording is now available on actsonthis.tv right here. For those on the audio experience, sorry you can't see it, but actsonthis.tv, you'll find it on the homepage. You're going to need to be a premium member to watch the whole thing. It's over an hour long. He goes into great detail about how you can audition for him, what he likes to see actors do, what he doesn't. So many questions got answered. We had about 50 people on that broadcast, all throwing questions at Victor. Victor Jenkins is his, by the way, casting director Victor Jenkins. Awesome guy, very, very loyal, wants to help actors out. It's a fantastic broadcast. Go get your premium membership. If you don't have a premium membership to Acts on This, seriously, I hate selling, I hate doing pushy sales, but I don't know what you're doing. You literally, you don't get this shit anywhere else. Like, literally, it's not available anywhere else in the acting industry. It's £10 a month. The money goes to charity, to the the charities of a guest choice. So Victor sent his to Bowel Cancer UK. It's a real force for good, and you're getting industry information you can't get anywhere else. You get it directly from the horse's mouth. And people send me emails asking me dumb questions. Well, there are no dumb questions. Ask whatever you want. But they're asking me the same questions again and again and again. I'm like, mate, I've told you if you listen to this podcast, that question is answered not by me, but by the freaking guy you want to talk to, like by the man or the woman herself can give you that information. You're hearing it from the casting director. What an incredible opportunity to then get in touch with that casting director. What a great opportunity, a great reason to reach out. People are like, I don't know why I should reach out to casting directors. They say I should have something to say. Well, if you're reaching out to say, thank you so much for this information and advice you gave me on this broadcast, or I've just heard this podcast, I wanted to reach out and say thank you. It's just an incredible icebreaker and a reason to reach out. It's just being clever and being savvy. And it's £10 a month. It's £2.50 a week, less than a small coffee at Costa or Starbucks. And people are telling me they can't afford it. I'm like, man, have a little look at what you're wasting money on if you've not got £2.50 a week to invest in this career you're telling me you want so much. And I don't want to get carried away and a bit bossy, but I'm just like, there's so much info on there. If I had this when I was at drama school, it would have changed the game for me, so much quicker. It's genuinely a fantastic broadcast. Go check it out, actonthis.tv. So there you go. Seriously, guys, it's worth every penny, says Wendy. Do it. Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate that. Thank you, Fletch. Hope to see you at Petch's Play at the weekend. I'm going to be at Petch's Play. I think we might be vlogging it Thursday because Sean isn't available any other night bar Thursday, but I'm going to see. Maybe I'll go more than once. Hanging out with you looks like it'll be an unreal experience, says Bobby. Bobby, I'll be around, I'm sure. Let us know when you're here. And I'm up to Watch Ross 15 at the moment, says Warren. Warren, that's beautiful, man. There's 38 episodes up, so you've got 23 to. Oh no, what have you got? 23 episodes to get up to. Wow, definitely. That bank analogy is hugely helpful, Ross. So spot on, says Anae. Keep that account open, Anae. Keep banking those deposits. Don't close it down too early, before the interest rate shoots up and you've missed out. Love listening to other people's stories, says Emily. That's what we read before. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Honestly, really, really appreciate it. Anything I can help you with, reach out, tweet me at Ross A. Grant, hit me up on Instagram at Ross A. Grant again. The site's Twitter is Act On This TV on everything. Please, just if you could do one thing for me, just spread the word about what we're doing. These broadcasts, retweet if you're on Twitter right now, share it on Facebook if you got value from it. I don't want anything from you. Even the money for Act On This, like I say, it doesn't go in my pocket. It ultimately runs the site and pays for charity donations. So you're helping yourself get further in your career, but with Victor's donation, you're helping people with bowel cancer. There's children's hospitals we've helped, children's homes we've helped. I'd say people off the streets for Christmas Day through crisis and stuff. It is genuinely want to make a positive impact with this. Can't do it if people aren't getting involved, or I can do it, but just to a much lesser extent. So I just need your help. To spread the word, get behind it, please. It's karma is practical, right? I promise you this. If you help other people and you put the word out and you do stuff and you help me build this community, it's practical. You will meet people who will say, thanks for putting me in touch with that site. That's been very, very helpful. You will network with people. I will help you. Again, it's like a bank. Put the deposits in, make a withdrawal. You can't make a withdrawal from any bank until you put the deposits in. Please just put some deposits in for me. It would massively, massively appreciate it. So I'm going to go. Love you and leave you. Hope it's been useful. Be back next Monday night, 9 p.m. UK. Be there, be square. If you do anything in the meantime, reach out. Until then, bye for now.